guys? It's John with National Sports Entertainment, and I wanted to go into the NFL schedule. We're wrapping up some bowl games, and we about split them. The Oregon Washington I had the most faith in, to be honest. I'm shocked, just because I feel like I guess they're building the underdog story, and the announcers really tried to push that narrative, but I just thought so much money was going to be on Washington here, and maybe it was. You never know, but or I mean, they pay out the public sometimes, but that one I thought was weird. We got the Texas cover. Just seemed like a lot of points. We got the SMU cover. The win would have been nice, but I just went with the spread. Missed Georgia, so had the undefeated team swapped. I thought they made more sense to win. Now it's interesting because McElroy, or whatever his name is, McMillan, he said something to the effect of, it was last week, and he made a nice throw. And as you know, he was benched early in the season, and he hasn't exactly had a top caliber year, but he said, like, give me the Heisman or something. And I thought it was interesting, but I'm wondering if it's a prelude. Obviously, that's not going to be enough to get him a Heisman, but I'm wondering if Alabama is going to get in there, and I think they said now they're a favorite to be in the bowl, so at least have a chance at the national championship. I'm wondering if it might be them. I thought it was going to be a passing of the guard, to be quite honest. You got Dion now, so Nick Saban, I thought was going to get like the Belichick treatment. So we'll still have to see what happens, but I thought that comment was interesting. Got the Michigan cover and missed the Florida State game. I thought Louisville might win. I guess they're pushing the heart and soul of Florida State. I guess I deserve it. Like I said, beginning of the year, my main picks were I had Georgia for the three-peat or Florida State. I did have USC in there, but Florida State made sense, and then I kind of got off of them in the last couple of weeks. So I'm wondering if they're going to do something. So that'll be interesting. I'll have my eye on that. Now, looking at the NFL games, a couple of these I think are little shady lines, but nothing's too crazy. And I'll go over the unit increment. Most of these are going to be for one unit, just like one unit, simple. But right off the bat, we got Chargers, Pats, and I like the Chargers to cover. It just seems like they're keeping them alive just enough to be, quote, in the hunt. And a loss here, I guess they could lose in fire still. Yeah, I think they should have done that earlier, so I don't think that would make sense. And I think the Patriots are getting the last pick or the first pick in the draft. I've been saying this for a while now. I think it makes sense to give them Caleb. So I'll take the Chargers for the cover. Cardinals, Steelers. I like the Steelers for the cover. They've been giving the Cardinals a lot of respect as of late, where they're only giving up, getting a couple points. Now it's a full touchdown. So to me, it just seems like a typical Pittsburgh game where, Watt and co. are going to stifle the opposing offense. Probably produce poorly offensively on their own, but find a way to win some kind of weird game, like a 19-6 or something like that. So I like Pittsburgh for the cover. Colts, Titans, an interesting one. Titans are a hard read, I'm not going to lie. I really don't know if they are not even going to put them in contention, or if they're going to keep them in contention because they just want as many teams in contention as possible. I do think they're going to push Will Levis. I think it makes more sense to have him and follow his story going forward for the rest of the year than Minshew's. So for that reason, I like the Colts to win. I'm sorry, the Titans to win. And I don't know why. Ever since he was in the draft class, I thought Levis was going to go to the Colts. He just seemed like such a Colts player as far as culture goes. So in my mind, sometimes I still feel like he's on the Colts. But no, I think the Titans are going to win this game, get it closer where they're also in contention, and it'll make some of these divisional matchups way more interesting going forward. You still got Henry, you got Hopkins, you got enough guys where it's not like they're a team to forget. Here we got Broncos, Houston. This one's obviously never going to be an easy one, but I do like Houston. I like them for the cover. I think they're going to just continue to push drop. I'm still not sure. I think they might fizzle out towards the end of the year. I have a feeling. But the Broncos bouncing back, obviously looking good. And it could be a story of a streak. They did just lose, but won, 6 of the last 7 or whatever it would be. They won a bunch in a row. They had a couple upsets. That being said, to me, this game, especially in Houston, I still think Not a lot of people are sold on Houston for different reasons. For me, it's more for narrative purposes. I don't. It would make sense, I guess, to get CJ in there in the playoffs. So either way, it'll be an interesting matchup, and I think while the money might be 50-50, I think it makes more sense for the Texans to cover. So I'll take the Texans cover here. Lions Saints. I personally like the Saints cover here. I think the Lions probably eke out a win, but I do like the Saints for the cover. I think it might be a close enough game, and I think there's a good chance the Saints can win this game as well. Probably a lot of people pretty hot on the Lions, not giving up too many points. So I would imagine more public would be on the Lions. So I like the Saints for the cover. Falcons Jets, another interesting one. Looks a little weird on paper. I always like ones where both teams can move to the same record. A lot of times that's a tiebreaker I use. So this will be no different. I'm going to go with the Jets here. I'll take them to win, so you'll be getting slightly plus odds. And there might be more money on the Jets, but let's not forget they got Boyle in. And the thing with the Falcons is they just don't, like, there's certain teams that just don't produce at all. Like, when they win games, it's because of a bunch of field goals or stuff of that nature. So I have a feeling that we're going to see a story of the Jets defense just being so good and so overpowering that they're able to win this game. So it also keeps them in contention. Sure, they could lose, but they got some division matchups coming up. I think it makes more sense they win here. They stay right on the hunt, and they're already saying Rodgers is way ahead of schedule. So there's no way they're going to knock them out of contention with Rodgers still making almost ready to come back. I think this game is going to be a message game. Commanders, they could make a run, sure, but I don't see it. I thought they were going to have a better year after getting rid of Snyder. I had them getting in the playoffs. Obviously, that's not looking to be the case. And to me, this just seems like, I like to call them as advertised ass kickings. And I think that's what we're going to get. There's a couple games a week where one team just pulverizes the other team. 9 points is a good bit to be laying on the road. So I'll take the Dolphins with the cover. Panthers, Bucks, probably my favorite play. It is my favorite play. And it's because of the metrics. The Panthers are just abysmal against the spread. They barely, obviously, they've only won one game all year. They've only covered like one or two spreads. I like the Panthers here to cover the Bucks. On the road, they haven't covered at all, I don't think. So I'll take the Panthers plus 3.5. The one everybody is curious about, the Niners-Eagles. So here's a very interesting one. ESPN Bet, which is their YouTube page where they warn people the detriments of gambling, but then tell people who they should be betting on and how much they would have won if they bet on this game. They pointed out how the Eagles are the only underdog in the history of the league, I guess, since they started doing analytical betting and things of that nature, to be 10-1, which is a very specific record, but I get their point. This far into the season, basically, only one loss with their active quarterback at home as an underdog. And I feel like I had the Eagles winning this because I felt like in the playoffs we'll get a rematch and the Niners win. But to be honest, we might not get a rematch in the playoffs anyway. I like the Niners to win this because I think so many people are going to be looking at that. Man, the Eagles are getting plus odds. It's never happened. It doesn't make sense, and it just seems like a trap. So obviously my logic isn't always pinpoint with the traps. I was off with Oregon, Washington. But for the most part, if there's a really big market game that most of the country is going to be watching and betting on, I don't think ESPN is going to be trying to help people. And again, if you see that metric, then you feel like Eagles should be the favorite. I'm getting great odds to take Philly. I'd imagine way more money's on Philly, so I like the Niners. Now I got Browns, Rams, another one. Are the Rams going to be in contention? I'm going to stick by that, yes. I also think people are going to have their early 2010 goggles on when thinking of Flacco. Okay, he might not be the best, but he's proven. He can make the throws. And I think a lot of people are going to assume he's going to just step in for the Browns and look great. And as we know, these guys, they can easily go from looking very competent to high school JV players because they're great actors. So I think we're going to see a lot of the 2-yard passes, a lot of 3-and-outs, and a very defensive game. That's what I think they're going to push. And it'll give the Rams a reason to cover. And I think the Rams versus the Seahawks going down the road is going to be pivotal. Like I said, they might even try and get the Niners in a three-way race. But again, to me, that just makes more sense as to why they're going to win the whole thing. If they were running away like the Eagles right now, then I would say, yeah, there's a good chance there's going to be too much money on them. But they started off so strong, and now they're just kind of quietly hanging around. So that's why I still love the Niners. I think this preseason pick might be the best one we've done. Obviously, we've only done 2 football ones, but my preseason pick for this year was the Ravens-Niners, and very little has changed my mind. I did one video on Mahomes and why that would make some sense, but yeah, I think we were over the target. But anyway, I like the Niners to cover this spread because, again, I think there's going to be way too much money on the Eagles, and I like the Rams to cover because I think they're going to keep them at least in that race, and I think more money is going to be on the Browns. And then for the Sunday game, we got Chiefs-Packers, and this is the one and only game we're going to take. Well, you can take whatever you want. I'm doing the money line because they pointed out how Mahomes has never won in Lambeau. And sure, it could be history. They could be trying to make history. But I think they're going to wait before they give him like the Tom Brady treatment. And I think he's already beaten every team, which it took Brady much longer to do, I believe. Maybe every team but the Chiefs. So Brady technically beat every team. But even still, they've had him do a lot. They've had him never lose at home against a bunch of different teams. So winning in Lambeau is very historic. I think it's going to be a Cody Rhodes WrestleMania story, who he ironically went up against the Tribal Chief. But basically, not yet. Mahomes, he's done a lot of things, but he still hasn't won in Lambeau. I feel like that's going to be like the closing statements from the announcer. So I like the Packers straight up to win. So, of all these matchups, like I said, a lot of them I feel like can go either way. The Texans, the Titans. Don't love the Jets. So they're all going to be 1 unit. The Panthers covering the Bucs is going to be 4 units. It's going to be a leg 3. I have a lot of conviction in that. And I also have a lot of conviction in my Niners-Eagles pick. So the Niners covering is going to be a leg 2 for 2 units. The rest of these, I'm going to make leg 1 for 1 unit. So obviously, not that one's more important than the other, but we would really like to hit the Panthers cover just because it's the equivalent of 4 games, if you put it in perspective. And that's why I want to put 4 units on that. Same with the Niners. I like them enough to put 2 units on them for the cover. I think there's going to be a lot of money on the Eagles. I do like the Packers win, but we're getting plus odds, so there's no reason to play much. You can, but more than 1 unit. Bengals, Jags, I go into this a lot. I'll be covering that. I'm curious to see how the Browns do. I'm curious to see how the Jets do. The Broncos-Texans game won't really matter. The Titans game will matter. If the Titans win or lose, could be indicative of what happens with the Bengals-Jags. So I like to wait for those reasons, and because sometimes they pull out some nonsensical injuries. The 10 points, I get Burrow's not in, but, the Bengals haven't looked awful. So, they stayed in the game with Pittsburgh. They lost pretty bad to the Ravens, but the Ravens were a consensus top team. So to be giving up 10 against a team that isn't known to blow people out, off the bat makes me lean Jags because I think more money will be on the Bengals cover, the Bengal money line. But I'll have to look more into that one. But yeah, for the rest of them outside, like I said, they're all going to be leg 1 unit outside of the Panthers to cover and the Niners to cover. So take care and happy earnings.